We'll figure it out. It's gonna be. All right, so let me figure this out here. So how you guys doing? You good? Thanks for coming. Is that coming through the front? All right, so I'm just gonna see if I can troubleshoot this here. This is how we roll in the big leagues. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to plug straight into this one here. Troubleshoot this. All right. And then this one goes into here. You getting that? Yeah. Really? You get delay and shit on it? What's that?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Just going to go straight to the DI.
Yeah, but then I don't get my goo. Try this. That's working, right? Okay, well here I am reverse engineering the problem. So I'm going to start here, because that's what I do. And I'm going to say like, oh, I know why. Because that's not plugged in. If you wait until this works, it's going to be so fucking epic. So I get to do 2 shows today. Woo! Yeah! All right. Nothing yet, right? All right, so talk amongst yourselves. So, oh, I know what I did wrong. I didn't plug that one in. You see, what's actually really good is I'm going to bring the microphone down here so while I'm doing this, I can talk to you guys. Hi! All right. So it's been years since I smoked weed, but I remember when I did, I would try and do this and get lost in it every time, man. I'd be like the cable. Oh. Nothing yet, right? You get the, I think it's coming through the microphone, though. No echo yet. All right, so let me just see.
Just stay there.
I'm just right here? Like that, despondently. Okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to go just, wow, fuck you, speaker. All right, so here's this one. Echoes? No? No. So that would mean then that the problem would be with this delay. The effects level up. Mono. No. Let's try going to the other input. This is going to be, okay, yeah. And this one? No. All right, so we're going to try this one. Oh, shit, I'm so sorry. Fuck, man. You know, the funny thing about flying down here as well is it's like you're on the cusp of a manic episode the whole fucking time, man. All right, so today we're going without effects. I'd like to thank you very much for getting me the effects, though, whoever did. That was very kind of you. All right, so stand up, Deb. Look everybody in the eye and let's do this. All right. Oh, I'm going to have a heart attack live. It's going to be great. Like, you can do it! Yeah. So where are we? We're in the outskirts of Melbourne.
Yep.
Melbourne. Right?
Melbourne.
Canadian. Melbourne?
Melbourne.
Yeah, Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Yeah, that's right. So I gotta get a pick. Anyway, my name's Devin, you know that. Oh, my heart is all fluttery. Just gotta have coffee after midnight. So you got me now, right?
Woo! Yeah.
You alright? You good? Alright. So thank you so much for coming, guys. Yeah, thanks out there too. You know what's cool is actually I was just taking a shit in that back room there, and I heard it might have been you with the beard talking, right? And it was like right outside, and it was like because I've got nervous bowels, it like stopped. So I can't pee in public either. I don't know if any of you have that affliction. Do you have that? Where you just can't pee if you hear anybody? So at one point, what I used to do on tours, I used to dedicate a song on my iPod, because I use Apple, to like my Pavlovian response that I would use when I'd hear it and I'd have to pee. And it was Raining Blood. So as soon as he did the scream, like, yeah! I think it's a profound uncomfortableness with my own humanity, I think. And all of a sudden it's like, you know, the penis, and it's just like, a thing's so fucking weird, yet it controls all my decisions. It's like, it's so weird. If you're not a dude, it sucks. You're just like, it's like, well, I wonder if that, no, that's because of that. And it's like, just Ziltoid is a metaphor for sex, probably. So, anyway, as you can tell, I'm riding balls, metaphor for balls. I'm riding the cusp of a manic episode, and that's because I'm 43 years old and the flight from Canada is fucked. So I'll play a couple songs, and we'll take it from there. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Really. You know, let's break the ice. Let's break the ice with the bread, and maybe let's ask answer, Dev. Ask, answer in that order. Some questions. Anybody got a question? Huh? Yes. Yes, please.
How's Transcendence going?
Transcendence. I don't know if I'm going to call it that because it sounds so full of shit. But it's like I got the artwork going and I started writing the other night and it was like I really like the idea of heavy lullabies that sound super depressing. I don't know why. It's like when you always think about people who default to comedy as their routine when they're just socially inept, which is my trip. I'm like terrified of everybody, so my default is to be a jackass. So it's like, so when I start writing, it always comes back to like miserable, rainy sounding shit in Vancouver stuff. So it's like at that point, it's a bunch of miserable, rainy sounding sort of pop songs that have a lot of heart. And I got the cover done, and I'm not convinced that Transcendence is just a totally shit name. But we're getting there. Thanks. Another question, please. Yes, sir.
Are you going to re-record Saloon for anything in the future, like Casualties?
Saloon. Oh, Saloon. Yeah, no. I mean, it's literally, it's like 30 records worth of shit now, so it's like, that's 300 songs. And I don't remember most of them. And it's funny is I do these by request things, and I just wait for someone to yell out a song I actually know, and then I pretend it's like, oh, that's a good idea, I'll do that one. But I actually don't know any of these songs anymore. Like Saloon, I don't even remember that one. It's like, oh, wait. But that's as far as I remember. But the way I write is just this. It's like what I do all day, every day is I just play guitar or bass. But it's the whole process of writing for me is independent of thinking. And I think that's why it works in such a specific way. And when I am working with people, it's not that it's not open for interpretation. Certain elements of it are. But that's usually the technical aspects of it because I write with such a distinct idea of what it is that I want to achieve that I just do it and then I get rid of it. It's vomiting, essentially. And then once it's done, I never listen to it again. And it's each record that goes by, you just try and make it a little better, a little different, or whatever. But the process that I employ now, is exactly the same as what strapping was. Just now I'm 43 and like out of shape with kids, right? So it's like that's where my pool of influence comes in terms of themes at this point in my life, right? But I write from dreams a lot of the times as well. I'll have a dream in the middle of the night and then I'll wake up and mumble the idea into my iPhone by Apple. Fuck, I hate that shit. So anyway, it's like, that's what this one's from, alright? So let's try this. Took me by surprise there, I have to admit. And also I can improv that because I realized my high string is out of tune, so I can make it seem like I stopped because of that, when in actual fact I knew as soon as I started that I had to tune that one, so thank you. Here we go. Whew, alright, Dev, here we go. 2 shows in a day. Doesn't sound too bad. Midday, right? You guys have some drinks in you at all? Okay, midnight, right? Let's do this together, right? As everything in life comes together now, I need your mind. And everything is light. I remember now. I see you rise, and all the lonely things seem to want to change. I'll sleep on it tonight. We don't even understand. Something's going on. We don't even understand. So how could this be wrong?
with you, with everything I do. God, I love you. I love you.
All right, come on.
We don't even understand. Something's going on. We don't even understand. So how can this be wrong? We don't even know or care. Something's always there. We see it in our hand, but we just don't understand.
Oh, yeah. It's the nonchalance that brings it all together, right? I never play without echo. It's kind of nice, actually. Yeah. Except I can't hide behind it. I gotta sort of do my thing without my safety blanket of 30 seconds of reverb on it. I like the effect, though. That's the thing. Some like you get those guitar player, like the cork sniffing guitar players, like, oh, fuck, man, it's because you use echo. And I'm like, yeah, but it sounds cool. Yeah, but a real guitar. Oh, I'm not a real guitar player then. I'm actually not. I don't actually consider myself a musician at all. Actually, well, of course I do. I mean, that's stupid. What a stupid fucking thing to say. But there's an element of it when you see the guitar players that know all the licks. Like you go to the blues jam and there's that guy and he's like, oh, dude, yeah, you don't know Far Beyond the Watchtower, whatever that stupid Hendrix song is. And he plays it right, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Echo. Okay, here's another song. Actually, let's ask another question. Ask another question? Okay. Does anyone have a question?
When are you going to bring Annika to Australia finally?
Well, I think the thing is we're both in our mid-40s, and it's so fucking expensive to get down here that it's like in order for us to get it all together financially, she's got kids and her own band and all these sorts of things. It's the only way that those things actually, like Casualties or any of the other projects I do, is if there's a demand for it. Like if there's a demand for it, then it can be afforded. And that's not just because I'm running things strictly from a fiscal point of view. It's just I think the flights for the band alone to get down here is like $20,000, right? So adding Annika plus her fee, and she has to leave her band behind, and all these sorts of things. I'd love to. Like, you know, we're doing a show in the States where they funded it, and I'm gonna always, you know, ask her to sing on the new record, Townsend or whatever it is. But I'd love to have her down. But it's not as simple as just like a decision. Right. Yeah.
It's not the fact that you're doing 3 shows in one city and all of them sold out within seconds. Is that not demand enough?
Well, it's really nice. Well, it is on that front, but it's like the demand was not specifically for that. But did that really happen? That's so badass. That was great. Thank you, by the way. Thank you. Let me tell you how little credence that holds in my home life. You know, because you go on the other side of the planet and you're just like, yeah, man, we sold out in like a couple of seconds, right? And you go home and it's like, yeah, well, the dog's got the shits. I had an interaction with my buddy, like this kid that my son had an interaction. I had to like talk to his dad, and his dad came at me like an ape. He's just like, oh, fuck, man. Only fags talk. And I'm like, oh. So it's really cool, but it's also, you have to suspend the whole idea that this is real life, because it really isn't. You know, it's like this, it's great. It's so much fun, and to be able to do it, and it's like dreams come true and all this. But really, it's to keep in perspective, it's like,
It's an anomaly. We played to 18 people in Kingston, Ontario recently. It was good. No, it's good for the humility. And on all of those 18, we're just kind of, who the fuck is this guy, right? So, all right, so here's a song. Let's do Hyperdrive, huh? Yeah! All right. No, that's that guy, small penis. Does he have no he's just like, whatever. Fuck you, Dad. I'm gonna allow the motorbike. Just because I don't have one. When I was a kid, I had a 4-stroke motorbike. You know, ran on grapefruit juice or something like that. It's like, oh, actually, this is the best thing about that. I wrote it in the book, but again, it's shit. But I had a 4-stroke motorbike, and it had the shocks, like the 4 shocks, a 1974 piece of shit. And all my buddies had a 2-stroke with a monoshock. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's like a shock underneath the seat that gives it like a spongy. It was cool, right? I had a totally uncool motorbike. So what I did was I took one of the shocks off. Yeah! So I went down to the sand pits with my buddies, and that's what you do. You get down to the sand pits, and I took the first jump, and I was like, yeah, I'm got a monoshock. And the second one, it broke off the thing and hit me in the ass. And I was in a wheelchair for all of grade 6. I didn't even need to be in it for all of grade 6. I needed to be in it for 2 weeks, but I'm just like, I was just doing wheelies and so fuck that guy. It's better. All right, so. That doesn't sound epic at all. So cold in the night, where the river goes, where the river flows. So cold in the night, where the river flows, where the river flows. Sail away, hey, I'm sorry. Every day's a new day. Pray for love, hey, I'm only trying to find a new way. So cold in the night with your river song, sing a river song. So cold in the night with your river song, with a river song. So cold. Song about having kids. Okay. Shine! I hear that. Nice. Oh. Yeah. So cold in the night. Hold on, hold on. So cold in the night. Hold on, hold on. Sail away, hey, I'm sorry. Every day's a new day. Pray for love. Hey, I'm only trying the alien way. A new way. A new way. A new way.
Except for that time. I'm truly sorry.
Remember I was talking about that penis thing? Well, it's a bastard. Oh, there's people here. So anyway. I heard you put an echo on that, man. Fucking awesome, dude. Can you put, have you got like the option to put echo and reverb?
That's correct.
What do you got? Just echo?
Echo.
What's your milliseconds at?
80 sats.
Okay, yeah.
120 watts.
Fuck yeah. Can you make the repeats on it like 70? Like seriously. Like seriously. Okay, so I'm gonna do like a heartfelt. Who's that? Who's that guy? No, it isn't even. It's Steve Tyler. Steven Tyler? Oh. Oh my god, that's 56 up there, isn't it? I had that picture when I was a kid. Yeah, it's all phallic, right? See, again, it's the whole thing. He's just like, this is, see this? Ah, it's all sexy. It's my wiener. See this fire extinguisher? I put out your passion with my love. Seriously. Humans are fucking so dumb. Alright, so we're gonna do a song about humans dying because, hey! So, alright. You can put some of that goo on my vocals too, that'd be great. I'm gonna take my glasses off, but it belies my, yeah, right.
Jesus, he loves my brother, tortured and stretch for the heavens and go. Oh, I watch him go. Oh, here it comes. Jesus was a poor boy. Jesus was a poor boy. It's just a spring clean for Maggie Queen. Oh, and I'm going home. Souls are crying. A world away, you turn away. I'm wide awake, and I don't need your no. Tell me why. so I can't get away, and I'm left behind with nothing but words. So and I went to the funeral in the rain. And I went to the funeral in the rain. Now went to the funeral in the rain.
Thank you. Nice work up there, brother. That's fucking awesome, man. So yeah, the whole impromptu thing. Holy crap. Reminds me of my grandfather. Except he had no rhythm. Love him though. He's great. It's not even that he didn't have any rhythm. He just led it. He'd lead the charge at Christmas playing like Johnny Cash songs. Yeah, and Clancy Brothers and all that stuff. But he'd just be like, "Come on, son, keep with me." And he'd be like, "I hear that train coming around." And we're all just like, "Holy fuck, But yeah, it reminds me of that. It's like, you got to get back to it. It's nice to sort of go back to it and just remember that you love to play music, because it really is nice to be able to have a job where what your description of what you do is just you illustrate time. That's awesome. I love that. It's good, right? I didn't make that up, by the way. So somebody else did, right? But you see, I'm all about the metaphors. It's probably because I'm Canadian. I have a hard time addressing things directly. It's the passive-aggressive part of me, right? So I make a metaphor out of it. It's like, well, I'm terrified of fear and anger and all that, so strap a young lad. And, I'm terrified of the nature of my creative impulses being demanded through things that are against my will and all this sort of shit. So Ziltoid, it's a metaphor, right? But it's like, you see, again, that's why I've been with Trace for 25 years, because I start saying this shit and she's like, uh-huh. So I think that helps, Opposites certainly attract, because then you can call each other on your shit. If I was together with someone who was as much of a fucking banana as I am, nothing would get done. Nothing. We'd just be like, look at these butterflies. So anyway, I got about that metaphor shit right here. So in our mind's eye, we see the buff and commanding entity that is Captain Spectacular. Yes, staring out his starship. What is that? Is that a Smurf? What is that? It is? A Smurf with a tail sticking his tongue out?
It's a devil.
It's a devil? Ooh, terrifying.
It's a metaphor.
It is for what? For religion, which is a metaphor for duality, and everybody's making money off it. Fuck you, thing. That's not nice. I love religion. You gotta keep the echo on the whole time, so yeah. Yeah? So that way when I noodle, it's like everything I can interact with. Woo! Is not a straight line.
what you were. Now it's gone, gone away. You take your turn if you choose everything that you were. Now it's gone, gone away. Yeah, it's gone, gone away. It's quiet, it's slow. Yeah, it's gone, gone. It's sort of swelling, yeah. Gone, and the world is gone, and we find there's no one that's waiting for your light to call, and we're on your own, and we find there's no one that's waiting for the light to call. Women, and we're on your own, and we find there's no one that's waiting for the light to call. I like her, she's confident. Right, calls me on my shit. But Captain Spectacular, he has so much shit that he's just oblivious to the fact he's being called on. And he stares her straight in the eyes before offering a dubious back rub while watching Antiques Roadshow on a Wednesday night, saying, check this out, this would be my penis. Oh, how'd that happen to get out? We're talking about sex, Devin. It's going to be embarrassing when you see this later on YouTube. That's alright, those fucking guys are taking all my shit down on YouTube. I don't give a shit anymore. Hey, it's Jimmy Page. Open sea tuning, motherfucker, you are high. I must rise. I must find a way. For this transgression, for this transcendence, Ziltoid must surely pay. Oh yeah, you know what I gotta do now is I gotta go downtown because Periphery can't sound check until I do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna answer a couple of questions. But that was totally lame. Okay, it's gotta be more dramatic than that. I must rise, I must find a way. For this transgression, Ziltoid must surely pay. Oh, thank you for coming, guys. Oh my God. Thank you. Thanks a whole lot of love as well. That's what this place is called, a whole lot of love. Alright, thanks to you guys as well. They got me pizza, they got this fucking awesome guitar, they like, you know, they got me coffee. It was great. Thanks, guys. Let me take a dump back there. It was great. But I do have to go, so I would love to stay and talk to all of you guys, but because I have to do the sound check, I'm just going to have to answer some questions, and I really got to bolt. So, is anybody coming to the show tonight? Or yeah! So there, I can take photos and all that. But if that's cool with you guys, that I can go because Periphery will be pissed, and they're really good. So you know what I mean. So is that right? Yeah. All right. So can I get a couple questions? Yes. It's finished, and it's okay. So here's. Because you see, I'm stuck. Okay, so the way that I write is I get a theme, and my whole world revolves around it. And then by the time it's like an archaeological thing. You just keep digging away at it. And right now, the theme is male sexuality. I can't not think about it. And it's not just because I'm wired that way. It's just because I'm 43 and there's kids and all these things. But you think, as a male, so much of your motivation in life is tied to sex. It's like 99%, and it's so frustrating because it's gross too. You know what I mean? It's like, I love it, sex, hooray! But at the same time, I hate the fact that I'm so controlled by it. So I wanted to make a symphony about that. So I've got this Renaissance-type painter, just like these incredibly graphic, sort of like Doré, Divine Comedy-style paintings of like men just like killing each other with their cocks and these big laughing vaginas in the sky. And then it's like, but then then there's going to be this sexless like entity that ends up like, he's just done, but she ends up like, he or she, whatever, takes her, and then he's presented to the eye, whatever that is, mathematics or God or who knows, right? But it's so disappointed with his like lameness that it just vaporizes him. But he's stoked because then it's done.
So I think it's going to be called the moth, because I like the idea of being so attracted to something that you're willing to destroy yourself for, whatever that is, sex, drugs, rock and roll, right? And I made a language for it too that's like, it's so cheesy, holy Dungeons and Dragons, but it's like, but the guy did the font for it and everything, and it's like, so basically the whole layout, there's going to be no English in it, so it's a real commercial success. So before that, I'm going to do the DTP one because there's choruses there, right? So, yeah, so it's okay. Good, I think. Yeah, it's really complicated and annoying, but I want to, get it out of my system. Next question. Someone sneaking up behind me. Oh,
Where's the next candid?
well, me and Jay are kind of working on a relationship as well, because it's the way it first started was we didn't know each other, so it was all over internet. And there was something really safe about that sort of relationship, because you can be open about all sorts of things without feeling like that direct connection to another human being. And so that's what the whole theme with the radio and everything on that record became. But since then, we've become friends. So it changed the dynamic, right? And so now it's trying to figure out, well, what do we write about? Because I do like working with women, but I don't like the themes being about, relationship shit. It doesn't make any sense. I like it being just like opposite ends of a human spectrum, and I can't do that, you can't do this, so whatever, let's do that. But so I don't know where it is right now. We're going to do it again for sure, but we're just trying to figure out where we're at. One more question. Yes.
When's the book coming out?
Well, it was supposed to come out for Christmas, but then I fucked up. So it's done, but I have to do the final edit, but I monotask so profoundly, one thing to the exclusion of everything else, and right now I'm in Australia. So I've got about 4 more days worth of work to do on it, and I'm going to do that when I get home, right? We're supposed to come out for Christmas, but probably about March. Hey, what's that?
That's my birthday.
When, March?
Yeah.
The whole thing? That is a party.
Every day. My mom works for help.
What day?
Every day.
The 9th of March. Hey, everybody, happy birthday to her. On the 5th of May, I'm a Taurus. I've got, anyway, so, you're going to say something. Right.
Hi guys, hope you know who I am. If you don't, then too bad. I do the Hard Rock Show on Channel 31. I'm just going to do a few questions courtesy of Rick and Whole Lotta Love. They've asked me to come down and do something. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
I'm ready. I'm backing up.
I think everyone here can testify to you being warm and open and incredibly giving. So if you agree, then let me know.
Thank you.
How important is that to you with your audience and all that sort of stuff?
Well, it's not conscious. I just think it sucks that that's an anomaly. You know what I mean? It's really. It's like I write music because I'm compelled to do it, and I'm trying to get away from it. When we had a kid, I was just like, I'm done with this. But it's I don't really have a choice. Plus, my job skills other than doing this are limited to flipping burgers, right? But I think everything that I've written about, even strapping, everything back then, is just about trying to figure out how to be a better version of, this fucked up human thing. And with that comes to not do that. It doesn't make any sense. And it does suck that it is an anomaly, because I just hate it when people are cruel to each other. I don't like that shit at all. And I think it's every choice you make kind of defines whether it's such an infectious thing, negativity, right? So I appreciate it. It's very nice, but it's certainly not like a marketing thing. You know what I mean? Thank you.
Another one, Sue, is I'm assuming everyone here has seen the Lucky Animals video.
Yeah.
What was that process like for you? What inspired that to begin with?
There's 2. There's the ones that the audience did. There's the one of me dancing around like a jackass in the backyard, right? Well, the audience one, I like the idea of people being involved. It helps. It helps me confront the fact that I'm actually really afraid of people, I think. So having people involved forces you out of your comfort zone. And again, that's not conscious either, but as a byproduct, it certainly is the case. And then with the one of me, I was simply just saying, hey, look, I'll be an idiot, so maybe that'll be disarming for other people to be an idiot. But before I know it, I was an idiot, right? So, but there's something to be said for never having been super successful at anything I do because you don't have to do shit for anybody. You know, like if strapping even had gotten super successful, if I'd written some dumb pop song, you know what I mean, and that's what you had to do for the rest of your life, I couldn't do my cock symphony or whatever it is. It's like you'd be stuck being that guy. But at the same time, it's like I'm fine to be me. I'm fine to ramble and be an idiot. I think that if you're gotten sober for so many years too, right? So it's as long as you're coming at it from the perspective of not trying to like cause harm, then you can basically open your mouth, and even though you might be offensive, it's not like a mean-spirited thing, right? So I didn't answer anything.
Hanging on everybody's
Yeah, no, I'll just keep talking. I appreciate you guys going, sure, dude, just go on.
How important is it in general, not only musically but in your life, to not take yourself too seriously?
Well, I mean, these are hard questions because it's things you never think about. I mean, worse shit's happen to better people. There's always people better than you and worse than you. And I think as soon as you start going on the part where, or the thoughts that you're fundamentally better than other people, as opposed to just, you know, a different version of the same trip, then you're just fucked because eventually your music's going to reflect that ego. Yeah, and I think ultimately it's I want to write music because it helps me grow, and the goal for me is to not write music anymore. It's not going to happen, but it's like each record that goes by, you can sort of like vacate and get it out of your way and make the mistakes and then move on. And people say, well, why don't you do strapping? I said, well, I was 23 and strapping was fucking awesome for me because I solved it. 5 records in, I was like, oh, I got it now. Okay, cool. Anger, for me, anger was it's fear-based. I was trying to protect myself from it because I didn't understand it, right? So you just got to keep going, right? So I think not taking yourself too seriously. I mean, I don't know. I mean, people that do are pretty easy to, take the piss out of, right? I think it's like, that was the thing with my family. It's like we spent so much time with Monty Python and whatever, right? That it's like as soon as people are like start, oh, this is my art. He's like, you know what I mean? That's nice. It's a nice compliment. Thank you.
In a few interviews lately, you've been talking about not writing songs so much as playing musical Tetris. Try and explain that to the people here and a bit more about your overall songwriting process.
Sure. Okay. Well, going back to what I said a second ago, my process musically is all about the process. I like the idea, the Carl Jung idea, where there's no actual original idea. It's just a pool of collective human consciousness, and you just are privy to it based on who you are and your trip, right? And so as a result of that, music doesn't really mean much of anything. It's just a field of shit that you pound through, and then it solidifies in the music on the side. And as you get older, the things that really make profound emotional impacts on people, there's less of a pool of that. When you're a kid, or if you lose your virginity, or first time someone dies, or some trauma, or your first time you fall in love, it's like a big thing. And then your synapses connect in a way that certain phrases adhere to those, things, and then the music becomes emotionally significant as a result of that. But as you get older, it's less of that. It's like first time, what happens now? First time you wore a cardigan and fucking ate a whole bag of chips while watching Antiques Roadshow. I mean, it's like, no one cares, right? So when you're 25, you're just like, fuck that, she broke up with me, fuck you, whoa, 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 and dubstep and all this stuff, right? And it's like, and when you're 40, you're just kind of like, yeah, she left me, fuck it, whatever, you know what I mean? So I think musical Tetris for me now comes in that phase I was in, where I was just like, well, I really like making music, but my connection to it right now is much more technical because I don't really have those emotional impulses in the same way that I did. But that was a period, and I feel like now maybe it's changing a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, or whatever.
You've had a career spanning over 20 years so far. Just make you feel really good. That's all right. Now, what's the biggest change you've seen in the industry overall?
Oh, I think the fact that there's no money in it weeds out the people that are in it for money, which is nice. Like I said, I tried to stop. Like right around Key, I was like, I'm fucking done with this, man. Like it's too invasive on a lot of levels, and But then it's just like my head got full of records, and then it just makes you crazy. You feel like it's coming out of your ears. So for me, music is this convenient sort of mental illness in a weird way. But to those that are, just like, well, I'm Spotify, and I'm not getting paid for my YouTube hits or whatever, just fuck off. Really, because ultimately you might write Round and Round or something, and people buy 7 million copies of it or whatever. But at the end of it, it's like, well, who needs you? Because I'm going to play whether or not I get paid for it. So, it's nice that I do, because then I can, go along with the family. But oh yeah, this $1,000. Yeah, it's just what I do. But it's also lower intermediate level prog metal. So yeah, we're still in economy class.
How many people in this room today are in a band?
Yeah, she is too. Is she? Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
What advice do you have today then for people that are in bands trying to do it now?
Don't compare yourself to other people. Honestly, it's like you go out with bands that are way fucking cooler. But if you just figure out who you are and then just are the best version of that, then no one else. Then you get your own trip. As soon as you're just like, well, I love Meshuggah, so I'm going to sound like Meshuggah, then you're just going to be like kind of like Meshuggah. It's like, or any Gojira, any of these metal bands that are like fucking ripping, right? I just say, just like appreciate them for being ripping, and then just figure out who you are, and then do that. Like sometimes you might, it's like if you're gay, figure out if you're gay, just be gay then. It's like the same thing. It's like if you just spend your whole life being like, okay, I like motorbikes or whatever, right? Then it's like, then you're going to be unhappy your whole life. So just figure out who the fuck you are and then write about that, And so if you're in a band and you've got stuff going, like, you might surprise yourself who you are. You might just be like, oh, I really don't like metal. You know what I mean? Or mixed martial arts is actually terrifying or whatever.
So tying on from that, your overall career is incredibly diverse. How important is it to you for your own, sanity in a lot of respects to maintain that diversity across your releases?
Well, I'd be saying regardless. I mean, I think sanity, and a lot of people, not everybody, but sanity is a choice. I think it's like it's very easy for people to claim themselves as being insane because it's a place to hide where you're no longer accountable for things. And it sucks, specifically if you're wired in a way that's hyper-analytical or really sensitive, which I am. But I remember it's like as soon as it's very easy to get stuck in the metaphor or infinity or take a bunch of acid and just be like, oh, I understand. It's like, yeah, but everybody does, man. Fuck. So I think the whole keeping your sanity thing, it's just like, that just takes work. You just gotta not let yourself go crazy. Those middle of the night, like, holy shit, I'm going crazy moments. Then 4 hours later, like, coffee. But it's, but the diversity of the music has nothing to do, again, with an intentional thing. It's just I get bored. So I will write something because I'm focused so completely on that theme. And then after a while, that theme is like, okay, everything in my life, Cassidy's Cool, for example, it's like I was, I liked the night at that point. It was really quiet, and for some reason that was cathartic for me. So the moon became a big part of it. And then all of a sudden, from that, the idea of like what the landscape would look like, and then the aesthetic of it, and then what the amp was, and the name, and then what the look, and what the photos. And then by the end of it, it's such a pinpointed like vision that it's unequivocal. You just do that, and then once it's done, you're just like, I don't want to fucking do that anymore. And so the next record is usually just like the opposite of it. And it's not intentional. It's just right.
Ziltoid.
Yeah.
If I'm covering
Yes.
if I'm
Talk
covering,
to me, sir.
probably a rhetorical question, but why the fuck coffee?
Because it's the same thing as a cheeseburger from Deconstruction. I love the idea that humans are so arrogant that they think they can't participate in things unless they understand. I love that. It's just so stupid. It's like, it's so awesome, it's so massive, man. How am I ever going to count the amount of drops in the ocean? It's just like fucking go surfing, It's like, and coffee is just, okay, so going back to there's always people better or worse than you, like Ziltoid, okay, so he's a fourth dimensional alien. Yeah, but he's an asshole and combined with the sixth dimensional alien, right? And I like the idea that he's just trying to find a cup of coffee. It's his trip. He's just like, fuck, this sucks, man. I just want to do this. And then through that dumb thing that he gets stuck in, all of a sudden his power gets a hard on because people think that, oh, you're fourth dimensional. You know, that's like super slick. So, I don't know, coffee could be anything. Jelly beans.
Black, yes. I hate them all. Why do they always have a UK accent?
What is one thing you wish people knew more of about you?
Nothing. People know way too much already. Thank you, though.
So then you're putting out a book that tells everything?
Yeah.
Good move.
Got a mortgage. Well, I mean, what's something that people don't know about me? I no longer pee standing up when I first wake up. This shot. First thing in the morning, I just sit there. I just let it drain. When I go back to bed, I'm just shaking. It's just fucking. There you go. Ladies.
There's a quote from earlier this year, at January this year, I want to read out and see if it still holds the same to you. Everything I write about is me trying to analyse how I feel about emotions because emotionally I'm repressed. So if you're interested in following a 42-year-old fucked up looking Canadian, at least it's honest. Has that changed over the last year?
I'm 43 now.
Yeah.
Got 43. Yeah, I mean, the whole self-deprecating thing, whenever I hear it back, I'm just like, oh, this is fucking so, you know, whatever. But I mean, again, it's like, and that's my trip, you know? The sugar doesn't do sugar, I'm that guy. So, you know, we got t-shirts if you're interested.
The word honesty, how important is that to you then?
The word itself?
The use of it. Being
Sorry, I
honest.
was a jackass. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, again, these are things I wouldn't necessarily think about. I mean, it's just, you can tell when people are lying to you. But I think you often can't tell when you're lying to yourself, and that's the process. I think it's really easy to think that you're one way or another and then believe your own hype. And I guess that's what the records end up representing, is you're just weeding through your own ideas, right? Looking for something else. So honesty is important, but I also think it's very easy to misinterpret, specifically when it comes to your own trip and your family and all this stuff, right? So, I mean, of course it's honest, or nice, or a word.
How has parenthood changed your outlook on music?
Oh, music is no longer much. It's nice to be able to do it. I think it's no longer, my identity isn't so invested in it that if I was no longer able to do it, I would die or cease to exist because I can't play music. And I think that having that sort of hold on it made it a lot less easy to improvise because, you know, if everything you do is of hyper significance and it's like your trip, it's like, well, people are going to judge me based on what I do, then eventually you're just not going to do anything because you just don't want to fuck up, right? You don't want to be seen as the person that you are. So having kids, all of a sudden, like, music, oh yeah, shit, there's tons of that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I can't fucking put on a diaper, but I mean, it's like, you know, sweep our bed, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's, I guess, it's been good. It's just another step, I guess.
You've had over 20 years of career, more than 20 releases.
Yeah.
How does all that sit with you today? And what do you think you'd like your legacy to be later on?
Oh, I don't need a legacy. I just, I mean, I don't listen to it. I don't remember it. I do, I guess. I remember the experiences. It's just, it doesn't really matter, I guess. I think that's a good thing, though, because a lot of times you think about death, you think about what your connection to that is in the future and what you want your legacy to be. And I think it's really easy to forget that humanity hasn't existed for any time whatsoever. And you think about like the actual great musicians, like Mozart or something like that. You think, well, his music will live on forever. No, it won't. You know, humans will die and people are going to fucking forget about Mozart. It's like, so I think if all of a sudden that's your whole trip, it's just like, well, I just, you know, at least I've got my records or whatever. I listen back to that stuff and it's recorded on ADAT. And there's like a spike in 3.5K and it's all compressed as shit. And it's like, none of it really makes much sense to me now. But the stuff that I'm working on now is at least, like a constant trail of it. But it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that to be nonchalant or flippant about it. It's like, I'd like it to matter. It'd be great. But it doesn't. So, fuck it.
Is there anything at all you'd like to say to the people that you've got in front of you today?
Thank you so much. And I mean that because as much as I ramble on and talk shit in this industry, there's no reason for you guys to buy anything. You don't have to. It's all there. But obviously because it costs so much money to come to Australia or do what I do, it's like you need people's support. The fact that people, probably some people in this room have allowed me to continue that by buying this stuff. Thank you. Really.
All for insurance, baby!
Yay! Thanks so much for this place as well. It's really cool. Thank you guys. It's awesome. So again, I apologize. Is that last question?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
awesome.
I apologize. I do have to run. So if it's cool, I'm gonna have to totally do the no pictures thing and bolt. So is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. I gotta get to the thing, right? So. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, guys. See you soon, all right? Thank you. Thank you so much, my friend. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon, man. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. We'll be back soon, okay? Thank you so much. Thanks, buddy.